does come through this display to us, and I'm going to start out without telling you very much about the program and just run through a little bit of the action that this provides us.
In 1968, one quiet engineer stepped onto a stage and showed the world the future, decades before anyone was ready for it. The mouse, hyperlinks, video calls, Windows. Everything we now take for granted, he demonstrated in one impossible moment. And the world barely noticed. Douglas Engelbart didn't set out to build gadgets. He wasn't dreaming of money or status or Silicon Valley fame. None of that existed yet anyway. He was searching for something bigger. How do you make human beings smarter? As a young man, he worked as a radar technician after World War II. One night, alone in a small hut in the Philippines, he opened a magazine and saw a computer, a gigantic machine that filled an entire room. It wasn't the computer that fascinated him, it was a thought. What if this thing could help people think? Not just calculate, not just store information, but actually amplify human intelligence. That single question became his life, and it would cost him nearly everything. When Engelbart began talking about augmenting human intellect, people looked at him like he had lost his mind. Computers at the time were basically giant calculators. You fed them punch cards, they spit out numbers. That was it. But Engelbart imagined something else, something radical. A world where humans and computers interacted directly, visually, intuitively. He believed technology should lift us, not limit us. A tool for collaboration, creativity, exploration, not just mathematics. He pitched the idea to colleagues. Most shrugged, some laughed, a few told him to get serious. But Engelbart didn't want to get serious. He wanted to get visionary. In 1957, Engelbart joined the Stanford Research Institute. There, he convinced his bosses to let him start a small group, a tiny, underfunded team with one insane mission: build a system that will augment the human mind. This wasn't an engineering challenge, it was a philosophical one. And to solve it, Engelbart and his team began inventing everything. The mouse? They built it from wood. Graphic interfaces? They sketched them on paper before anyone had screens capable of showing them. Collaborative editing? They imagined Google Docs in a world that didn't even have personal computers. Hyperlinks? They created digital reference systems decades before the World Wide Web. It was all there, in a little lab no one cared about, run by a man most people had written off as a dreamer. But Engelbart wasn't dreaming, he was building. Then came December 9th, 1968, the event now known as the mother of all demos. A crowded auditorium in San Francisco. Researchers, engineers, and government officials sat waiting politely, expecting a boring talk about computing. Instead, Engelbart walked on stage and unleashed the future. He moved a cursor with a wooden mouse, something no one had ever seen. He opened Windows, clicked links, edited text collaboratively with a remote colleague, used video conferencing, manipulated digital objects, shared screens. The audience gasped. Some literally said, "What the hell is that?" For 90 minutes, Engelbart showed the world the mouse, word processing, hyperlinks, real-time collaboration, computer windows, networking, video calls, interactive computing itself. It was a symphony of human-computer interaction in a world still using punch cards. And when it ended, silence. Polite applause. Nothing more. Engelbart had shown people a world they didn't even have the language to describe yet. He was too early. so early that no one realized what they had just witnessed. After the demo, the tech world didn't crown Engelbart a visionary. It sidelined him. Funding dried up, management changed, new leaders saw his work as too abstract, too idealistic, not practical. They wanted something simpler, systems that could be commercialized quickly, not philosophical visions of the human mind. And Engelbart's lab, the birthplace of modern computing, was slowly dismantled. Then came the final blow. Most of his best researchers were recruited away by Xerox PARC. The ideas followed them. The innovations did too. And Engelbart watched as the systems he created were rebuilt and polished at PARC, only to be taken again by Apple, Microsoft, and the rest of Silicon Valley. The world was becoming the one he imagined, but without him. Engelbart spent the next decades drifting in and out of obscurity. He spoke at conferences, he wrote papers almost no one read. He kept pushing the same message: computers should help humanity reach its highest potential. But Silicon Valley wasn't listening. It had turned into the very thing Engelbart feared, a place obsessed with convenience, not elevation. He watched as the mouse became iconic, as Windows and hyperlinks conquered the world, as collaborative software became the backbone of modern life. Every major tech company was building on Engelbart's ideas, but Engelbart himself? He worked in a small office with a small team, largely forgotten. There's a story that one day a young engineer visited him and asked, "You invented the mouse, right?" Engelbart paused, then said quietly, "I didn't invent the mouse. I invented the world the mouse lives in." And he was right. Near the end of his life, the world finally started to understand. Awards came, documentaries followed, tech giants invited him to their campuses. Steve Jobs admired him. Bill Gates called him a hero. Researchers who once dismissed him now praised his genius. And yet, he remained the same gentle, soft-spoken man who only cared about one thing: making people smarter. When he received the Turing Award, the highest honor in computing, he said, "This isn't about the past. It's about what we could still become." Even at the end, he was still pushing humanity forward. Douglas Engelbart didn't invent a device. He invented a destiny. He imagined a world where humans and computers worked together, where technology lifted us instead of distracting us, where knowledge flowed freely, and where intelligence wasn't limited by biology. He saw the future not as a product, but as a partnership. And although Silicon Valley built its empire on top of his ideas, the world missed the man behind them. Not because he failed, but because he succeeded too early. He was a legend long before the world realized it needed one. And maybe that's the essence of a missed legend. Someone who saw the future so clearly, the present couldn't keep up.
For helping humans to operate within the domain of complex information structures.
The probability of libraries still existing as they are today will drop. Because why will you go try to find some bulky sort of form of it when through your screen, bingo, you can pop to any piece of knowledge in the world and it'd be right there available to you.